If your Instagram story views are low, chances are it's because you're doing one of these types of Instagram posts that we are going to be talking about today. I've got 7 different topics that we're going to be touching on. The first 4 are very common posts that nearly every one of you is doing right now that you're going to want to stop doing if you want to get those story impressions back up. The other 3 topics are how the algorithm works, because actually the story algorithm is still something you can game in a way to make sure that you're getting the maximum amount of story views. Now, the thing is why I say the maximum amount is because you may have noticed that you might be getting way different views on your stories. You might be seeing 100 sometimes and then 1,000 at other times. It might be a 10x difference between your low point and your high point, and that's largely because of how the story algorithm works. So let me just touch on that first, and then we'll get started on the 7 topics. So the way that the story algorithm works is that it used to, about 3 years ago, the stories that you would see would just be, here are the people whose stories you watch the most. And now it's those people plus here's who we think has the coolest stories right now. So maybe it's someone that you never watched their story, but whatever the algorithm is picking up, they are thinking this is really good content and it puts it up to the top. So the pro is for us as business owners, especially if there's people out there that just never watch your story, if you can abide by the things I'm going to be talking about in this video, you have a chance to get up there. And that's why when you get those really high views that you aren't used to, it's because you're probably doing some of the things we're going to be talking about today. You just might not have known it yet. So at the end of this video, you'll fully understand why it's working and how to keep replicating it. So the first type of post that nearly everyone does, but it is guaranteed pretty much to just cap off how many story views you get, is sharing someone else's post to your story. And I hate to say this because when people share your post, it's one of the best things that it can tell Instagram to help your post out. Obviously, you're getting in front of their audience as well, but you may have noticed that whenever you just share someone's post to your story, share a reel to your story, it's not going to get a ton of views. So that would be the first one, and I won't say that I never do it. If there's a post that I just really want to share, I'll do it, and then just make sure that I'm not putting a lot of extra important stories out that day. Like if I was trying to pitch some kind of offer for my program, then I'm going to make sure that I'm not mixing that with these types of story posts that will kill the views. So that would be the first one, is sharing post to your story. The second one is when you talk on video, which again is unfortunate because it's such a great way to connect with your followers. But the thing is there's a lot of people who watch stories with their volume off, or they're in a position in public where they can't watch it with volume on. So at the bare minimum, if you are going to do a story where you're just talking to the camera, especially if it's going to be multiple slides or anything over 15 seconds, put captions on there, because that will help save it quite a bit. It's not an instant killer, the fact that you're on video, but it's a killer because it will get a lot more people to exit off or to skip your story. And those are basically the 2 actions that if Instagram can see that people are exiting or skipping the story, then it's not going to do well. You would have to get a ton of likes on that story for it to kind of subside the difference there, and then they would be like, okay, well, look at all the likes it's getting. So obviously if you can get some story likes, that will give you a little bit of a boost in the algorithm. But for the most part, if you are talking on camera for 30 seconds, there's going to be about 30 to 50% of those people that can't even watch it if they wanted to. So you're going to get so many people just skipping it, and it's going to look like it's a bad post in the algorithm. So instead, if you really just want to teach something, it's a lot better to just take a picture of you and then put a bunch of text by it and then just explain your point. So it's just a single image, and then no matter what position they are in, they can just stop and then read it, and they don't have to listen to you, and they don't have to be patient to listen to you come up with your points and take like 45 seconds to explain something. So talking on video is almost an instant killer of you getting a lot of story impressions. The third one is when you just have too many slides on your story. So unless you are going on the most epic vacation of a lifetime and you think everyone's going to want to watch every single story because it's that interesting, if you have more than about 6 slides at one time. Now on a personal account, I'll say like, I don't care at all, right? Because it's just like, whatever, I'm not really caring about how many impressions it gets. But on a business account, if you have more than 6 slides of stories at pretty much any given time, a lot of people will just see how many they're about to go through and they'll exit. Or even if they get through a few before they're like, all right, that was cool, but I'm going to move on to the next story, you're going to get an exit. And an exit is just when they swipe off your story and then they go to someone else's. A skip is when they press on the right side of the screen just to go through them. But either way, if they're just skipping through really quick, or they exit off halfway through because you have like 20 of them, then this is just going to look bad in the algorithm and you're going to get on the lower end of your views. The fourth type of post that is a killer of your story views is when you post a close friend story. So again, if you really want to do a close friend story for whatever reason, for me, I do a countdown timer for my group coaching calls every Thursday, and I do a close friend story. So just the people who are in that program will see it. I still do those for that reason because I have a benefit from it, but I don't really post anything else that's important on my story as a regular story that day, because it is probably the biggest of all of these four things that will just kill your story. The close friend story mixed with the regular one, for whatever reason, it just makes it so the regular ones barely get any impressions. So that is why you're going to want to take these next three things I'm about to talk about into consideration whenever you are driving traffic to a sale or something that's really important that you want to get the maximum amount of eyeballs on. You're going to want to do these next three things, and then of course avoid the four things that we just talked about. So whenever you're getting low impressions on your story, the thing that you want to do to fix it, so maybe I just did that close friend story that I do on Thursday, but then I want to do a very important post on Friday. What you have to do is let that series of posts die off, because as long as you just keep tagging on another post to the end of your whole sequence, it will just play off of the views that whole sequence is getting. So if you're getting low impressions on your story for whatever reason, and then you say, oh, let me just do one of these posts that Derek told me to do that would be good, you can't fix it. You can't just add on a post at the end that you think would do well and it will get more impressions to the whole thing, because those ones at the front are really the ones that are defining how many impressions you're getting. However, if you just let all the stories die off, it pretty much resets the whole story algorithm that you're getting in that sequence, and then it lets you start again. So just let them all die off is the thing that you need to know if you're ever like, all right, it's not going well, let me post some new stories. You can delete them, but that's usually not what I'm trying to do. I'm usually just trying to let it run its course, and then once they're all expired, then you can restart your new story sequence. Now, as I touched on before, the post that does extremely well is where you do a single image with a lot of text on it. The reason why is because when there's a lot of text, they will pretty much always assume that this is important. It's actually really rare. If you watch yourself watch people's stories, you'll go through, and then if someone has a bunch of text, you'll almost always read it. And that's just how it goes. If they got to the post and they can see there's text, they're just like, well, I gotta read it. I gotta see before I skip off. And what they do is, because they only have 8 seconds on that image, is they hold down on it so that the story pauses. And this is an engagement metric that is extremely valuable to the story algorithm, because it tells it, hey, they wanted to pause it and they really wanted to consume this whole thing. So that pretty much always triggers the algorithm to give you the maximum amount of views. And I don't even like to do like 4 different slides of text unless I literally needed to take up the entire screen for all 4, rather than doing 2 where you're just doing like bigger text and maybe it's like 4 sentences on each. It's better just cram as much text as you can onto a single frame, because someone's gonna be like, okay, what's going on here? And they're gonna read it. Now, you do wanna make sure that that text starts off very interesting, because if they just read a couple sentences and skip off, it's not gonna work nearly as well. So make sure that you got a little bit of a hook going on with that text. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll highlight some of the text and just change the color of that to maybe emphasize on some words. And it also makes it a little bit more skimmable, and it makes it easier for people to see, like rather than just a bunch of white text, they can see that certain points are colored, and then maybe they read a couple of those colored lines and they're like, oh dang, this sounds like it's gonna be interesting. And then they'll hopefully read the whole thing. But that almost always goes really well. So you can do a picture of you and then text, or you can just, do a picture of anything. Or if you want to just take a picture of the ground and then you press on the pencil button, and then you can pick any color. If you just hold any color down on the screen, so like while you're in draw mode, if you just hold your finger down on the screen, it will turn the whole screen that color. So a lot of times I'll just do black even, where you can just go to the draw button, go to the black pencil, and then hold down the black pencil on the screen, and it will turn the whole screen black, and then you can put text over it. So that would be a way that if you just want to do a colored background with colored text, that is the easiest way to do it. The last tip is the one factor that you have to increase someone's likelihood to click on your story before they do it, and that is your profile picture. If your profile picture does not make people want to say, hey, I want to see what this person's doing based off of their name and their profile picture. That's literally all they can see before they would choose to watch your story or not, unless it's on that story feed where it's down below, where it is showing a preview of the start of your story. If they're just along the top line and they're looking at all those circle profile pictures, literally all they have to go off of when choosing to watch your story is that profile picture. So you might find from your friends that have just like a super attractive, great looking picture of them as that profile picture, that you're like always clicking on it. And if there's someone else that has a picture that is like landscape and you can barely make out what it is, like even if you really like that person, you might find that you rarely click on it. So you want to have a profile picture that if you're a personal brand, it is absolutely your best picture. Maybe you switch the background color to be a little bit brighter and easier for people to see and click on. You can also just test this and change your profile picture and then see over time which one gets the most clicks. I did buy the Meta Verified, by the way, and one of the cons of that is when you have a verified account, if you want to change your profile picture, I mean, I submitted it like over 2 weeks ago and it still hasn't changed my profile picture. So it's kind of a pain in the ass. So if you do want to get Meta verification, you might want to change your profile picture first and then submit for it, because I still don't know if I'm ever going to get my profile picture changed because of how long ago I submitted it. But that profile picture is really the only thing that they have to see. So just make sure that that's optimized as best as possible. It's really not super cookie cutter how I'd recommend you all do this, but just try to put yourself in your followers' position when they see that story highlight or, you know, the profile picture for your story. Is it something that you would click on if you were in their shoes? And I know it's kind of hard to flip the script and put yourself fully in that situation, but if you're really not getting good results, no matter what you do, then this is where I'd point the finger at and make sure that your profile picture is fully optimized. So those are the 7 topics that we need to talk about in order to make sure you are maxing out your story views. Go out and do those this week, and if you get some great results, make sure to let me know at socialbamboo with an underscore at the end on Instagram. Can't wait to hear from you guys, and make sure you check out those links in the description if you're looking for that extra help and ready to take your business to that next level. See you next time.